Miller Mahdi from 8451 here. Welcome to another episode of The Upload. We're glad you're here. Each month we dig into the world of AI, thick data, machine learning, data science. We invite you to stick around and let us know what you think. Keep an open mind and stay curious.
Welcome to The Upload, everyone. I'm your host, Dan O'Keefe. And today's the first episode of The Upload for 2021. And we're talking to 8451's Vice President of Commercial Insights, Barbara Connors. Happy New Year and welcome to The Upload, Barbara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So, as we enter 2021, we're all looking for much to celebrate as the year unfolds, right? Of course, that includes planning for summer. And I say that as the mercury outside my window sits at roughly freezing. So I'm particularly excited to talk about this topic of preparing for a summer of celebration. Now, Barbara, this is all based on some work that you and your colleagues have been doing to try and foresee what the summer of 2021 will be like for consumers, especially if there's been a successful rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, so really when COVID-19 last year disrupted our lives and the industry, at 8451, we've doubled down on our efforts to leverage customer data to inform both the immediate decisions that we had to make and also predict those future trends. And so one way in which we did this is set up a consistent biweekly pulse that we had with our customers to understand their attitudes, their perceptions, their motivations, as well as their outlook on the future. Mm-hmm. And as recently as mid-December, 8 in 10 customers still believe that COVID-19 is going to last at least another 6 months. No. And nearly 4 in 10 believe it's going to last the entirety of 2021. So what that means is that the majority of people still think that it's going to last into the middle of the summer. However, even with all of this uncertainty, consumer brands, agencies, and the entire industry still have to plan for summer.
Sure. Right.
Companies are trying to make sense of the ever-changing landscape and comb through the proliferation of data to make informed decisions now to plan for the summer. So what we did is write this white paper as a collaboration between 8451 Insights and Kroger Precision Marketing, or KPM, which is 8451's retail media business, to arm brands and agencies with an outlook that's grounded in customer data and coupled with really tangible recommendations that will enable them to lean into trends and connect with consumers in a relevant way this summer.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate that explanation. And with that laid out in front of us, so what is the big picture? What are some of the larger trends we're going to see this year that are going to have effects on how people are shopping, especially given the challenges in front of us and behind us?
Yeah, so 2020 and 2021 are both going to be characterized by a high degree of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. However, while 2020's uncertainty was coupled with a lot of fear and anxiety, we believe that 2021 is going to have more hope sort of embedded in it. As people look to the vaccine and start to look towards the future again, they're going to be eager to visit family and friends again, to travel again, to celebrate milestones they may have missed or milestones coming up, make healthier and more sustainable choices, and reconnect with their communities again via sometimes even simple pastimes like sports.
Right. Well, and you mentioned travel. So how will that impact us this year? How will people travel differently in the summer of 2021 versus past summers? And how will this impact the brands that they buy?
Yeah. So last year, we saw that as people were canceling flights and canceling some planned vacations, many shifted their summer plans and opted to get out, literally, while staying safe and socially distant by camping as sort of an emerging trend, and also sometimes even buying RVs. And this absolutely had a direct impact on the brands that customers were buying. One fun example is that as early as April of last year, we saw sales of s'mores ingredients just skyrocket, and they stayed strong throughout the summer. So really what we expect this year is that camping is going to continue to be a trend, and vacation destinations that center on outdoor activities are going to continue to be a trend this summer. And even people that look to travel again and pick up, we expect that many are still going to travel by car. So when we think about the brands that can connect with customers in a relevant way, look for opportunities to reimagine campfire favorites, support outdoor lifestyles, and really bring back some of the on-the-go snacking that travels well. So think things like a DIY trail mix.
Right, right. And and that's what people can take with them, whether they're hiking locally outside or whether they load up their RV and travel across the country, right?
Exactly.
So what have we seen? You mentioned RVs earlier in the conversation. Does any of the data that you have in your group that supports Kroger consumers and how consumers in general are shopping for grocery and so on and so forth, does any of that data align with like sales of other products outside of the grocery aisle, like RVs and that sort of thing? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, so the example that I shared before about RVs, there's a direct correlation, right? So when you see things like that emerge, it is an indication of the activities that customers are making and the choices they're making and how they get out and celebrate and engage with each other. And the brands that they may buy in a grocery retail space are really just a reflection of that or an enabler of that. So when we think about DIY trail mix, yes, that's a product you can sell in the store, but also think about how that can fit into someone's lifestyle and really bring some fun and joy and inspiration into what can be some small shifts that they make this summer.
And I imagine, for instance, as we get into summer, that also means sports, right? Mm-hmm. So that tailgating mentality, whether it's for early football season or what we think of as baseball or soccer, that's going to change a little bit as well, right? How do you foresee people enjoying sports in the new year?
Yeah, so I think it's really going to impact in two ways. You bring up both of them. So one is when we think about youth sports. So as people return to youth sports, brands should be prepared for families to be on the go again. So a lot of categories of brands that we saw retract last year expect to pick up again this year as we think about fun kid products that are on the go and snacking and something that they can share with friends. And the second is when we think about professional sports. So professional sports will be coming back and their seasons may return a little bit to normalcy, but their stands still aren't going to be full. We should expect people to be watching and gathering for big games at home. Yeah. People invested in things like their decks and patios, grills and fire pits in 2020, and they're going to be eager to put them to good use again as the weather picks up in 2021. So as summer grilling is always a trend, expect that to be as popular as ever. But also brands should be looking for easy, fun, crowd-pleasing ways to bring appetizers and desserts into the mix as they start to invite friends over to their houses again.
Gotcha. And one other thing that we saw people invest a lot into in 2020 was exercise, being outside, right? So from a health and wellness perspective, and of course we're coming out of the winter, hopefully very soon, right?
Yeah.
But from a health and wellness perspective, I know it's part of many people's New Year's resolutions to drop a few pounds and get into shape, right? How are people going to lose the COVID-19? COVID-19, and how can brands prepare for this?
Yeah, so one key trend I would pay attention to is plant-based. So this was already growing pre-COVID, and expect this to be reignited. So believe it or not, 1 in 3 shoppers already incorporates some sort of plant-based food into their diet. Mm-hmm. And they tell us through our consumer research that the number one driver of this is health and dietary reasons. Mm-hmm. However, what COVID-19 also brought about was resolutions and urgency around social responsibility as well. So we saw recently through some research that 35% of respondents said that they're more conscious of food waste since the onset of COVID-19. And more than half of them plan to make steps to continue to limit food waste after the pandemic. So something like plant-based food is actually a trend that can hit on both these personal motivations for health as well as personal decisions people are making to invest more in social responsibility in their communities.
Huh, that's great. So speaking of the trends from last year due to the pandemic that we might be seeing carry over into 2021, such as stockpiling and all the staple foods and taking on baking as their new hobby, right? What's going to happen to the trends you noticed at the onset? Are any of them here to stay beyond the ones you just mentioned?
Yeah, so there are two big trends that I touch on. So one is on like cooking and baking at home. We saw this pick up pretty immediately with spikes in things like bread makers and flour. But really, our research shows that 60% of families are spending more time cooking at home. And we really believe that as the pandemic widens down, this is a trend that's going to continue. Mm-hmm. So brands have a real opportunity here to tap into this to fuel experimentation and exploration of new flavors and recipes. And this really plays into innovation. So we know that a lot of brands held back on new product innovation last year because they had to refocus their efforts really towards supply. Yeah. So this year, competition is going to be stiff for new products that enter the market. And if people are cooking and baking more at home, there's a real opportunity to really bridge those two together. The brands that break through are going to be the ones that really focus their launches and launch plans on customers and customer data, but also are able to pivot their plans pretty quickly by tracking what's working and what's not. So with our data, we have the most granular and frequently updated first-party retailer data in the industry. And through 8451 Stratum, brands and agencies alike can see in near real time who is trying and repeating their items, who isn't, and then pivot their marketing and promotional plans to maximize success out of the gate. So that's one key trend that we expect to continue. The second is on health and hygiene. So we saw obviously that skyrocket at the beginning with just wipes and hand sanitizer flying off shelves.
Sure, yeah.
The thing is, though, as we come out of this, brands should really plan for always-on health and hygiene messaging. No longer will promotions and messaging here really be tied to spring cleaning or cold and flu season. They're going to take on greater weight throughout the year as people travel more, as people go back to schools and workplaces. They're going to want to stay vigilant with their health. So really the key here is more around making sure you have always on messaging targeting those customers that you want to reach so that you're making sure your items are making it into their basket.
Interesting. So while we might see the standardization or the kind of a long-term play for many products that otherwise would have been on the end caps for a promotion for summer, we're going to see many of those become long-term plays. Are there any new items that we might see coming on as specials for the summer that maybe would not have been the case prior to last year, prior to the pandemic?
I think that the products that people buy this summer will be pretty similar from a food perspective to what they were buying before. It's just anticipation of people getting together more. So you're going to be buying different quantities of them. So if you're grilling out, you're going to be grilling for friends as well as your immediate family. And as I mentioned before, it's really going to be about trying new things. So because people are cooking more, you're willing to explore new flavor profiles and new items. And so tapping into that to help people sort of cut through what might have been a routine or regimen of easy, quick meals when you were trying to survive through the pandemic to now saying like, okay, I enjoy cooking, but let's try something new will really help people sort of connect with food in a different way.
Gotcha. And we've talked a lot about what people might be buying and what volume people might be buying in 2021, but what about how people might be buying? So we know that e-commerce in grocery was already gaining a lot of popularity before the pandemic hit. And then it hit a huge spike during the onset. What lasting effects has this had on e-commerce, and what's the future of grocery e-commerce?
So e-commerce was already on the rise pre-COVID, but it certainly expedited its trajectory. Kroger certainly saw this. We had 108% growth in Q3 in digital sales. I'd really say my call to brands is to think about making a shift from there being an e-commerce strategy and an in-store strategy to really unifying them around an omnichannel strategy. The key to winning in the space is not going to lie in focusing on growth in one modality, be it pickup or delivery or ship over another or competing with in-store. It's going to be making sure you have the right assortment, the right promotions, the right messaging across all of them.
Gotcha.
It's really about meeting the needs of the shopper where they are and delivering them what they're looking for in that moment. It is the focus on the customer that has driven Kroger's omnichannel strategy and what has enabled Kroger to break into the top 10 e-commerce retailers in 2020, according to eMarketer. So really, it's just, there isn't going to be a silver bullet. Brands have to first understand how customers are shopping across modalities, what different trip missions they're making across each, the role that their brands and products within their portfolio play across different baskets, different recipes, and different occasions. And through 8451 Stratum, brands can tap into all those modalities. They can look at in-store behavior, they can look at pickup, they can look at delivery. And now with Clickstream Insights, we can even help brands understand how customers are building their online baskets and understand that path to purchase, both in-store and online. But it doesn't stop there. Upon building this knowledge, brands that win are going to be those that leverage those insights to bridge the gap between food inspiration and purchase. And Kroger Precision Marketing enables brands to do just that. So, I mean, the thing is, e-commerce is growing now, but the landscape is going to continue to change. And we're going to continue to operate in an environment with a lot of uncertainty through the remainder of this year. And who knows what changes will come after that. The key is that the timeless strategy of focusing on the customer and leveraging best-in-class insights to drive a relevant activation will continue to lead brands in the right direction and help them drive loyalty with their customers and sustainable business growth.
Gotcha. Well, and best-in-class insights is what we're really talking about here. And that's what drove and it continues to drive 8451's and Kroger's plans for summer of 2021. What I heard was omnichannel approach, multiple modalities, and always keep the consumer's best interest front and center, right?
That's right.
Fantastic. Well, Barbara, we really appreciate all the insights you've shared, all of the, I won't call them predictions, but I would say very well prepared and informed, authoritative insights for how both consumers and retailers and brands can prepare for summer of 2021, right?
That's right.
So now we'd like to, before we let you go, it's the fun part of the podcast, we'd like to invite you to join us for the 8451 lightning round, where we ask you a series of 8 random questions for 51 seconds. Barbara, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. 1, what is your favorite travel destination?
Hiawassee, Georgia.
Interesting. What is your biggest pet peeve?
I have 2 toddlers, so whining is at the top of the list.
That's what my dog's doing right now. What are your 3 favorite ways to pass your free time?
Hiking, books approved by Reese Witherspoon, and hanging out with my kids.
Great. What supply is running low in your house?
Candy. I just finished the last of our Halloween candy.
Wow. What is your favorite sound?
Trees blowing in the wind.
Beautiful. What is the most important quality for a person to possess?
Humor. Laughter is the best
favorite
medicine.
place to go to think?
On a walk.
And what's your favorite movie quote?
Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Very good. I think I threw you with the movie quote. Sorry, we didn't quite make it, but boy, we got close. Barbara, you've been a great guest on the upload today. We really appreciate it. A lot of great insights shared, and I hope a lot of people get the value from it they should get from it and can plan accordingly for the summer of 21 because we want them to celebrate the summer of 2021. Our thanks to you, Barbara Connors, for being the guest today. And of course, to all of our listeners and viewers, if you enjoyed today's episode, please remember to subscribe and share it with your networks. I'm your host, Dan O'Keefe. We'll see you next time on The Upload.
Millen here. That's it for this month's episode of The Upload. We hope you enjoyed it and hopefully learned something new. Remember to give us a like and share your feedback. Until next month, stay curious.